Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic and nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Pierce,
Present.
Trustee Masek, Trustee Peterson, here. Trustee Bluthart,
Here.
Trustee Berman, here. Trustee Dominiac,
Here.
Mayor Gertner.
Present. We have 2 trustees on Zoom tonight. First order of business is the Mayoral Report. A couple of announcements. First announcement is tonight will be the last meeting that we'll be doing public comment via Zoom. We still will be broadcasting all village board meetings and other department meetings on Zoom, but now that we can come in attendance, we haven't had much participation on Zoom, and we have to bring a staff member in to handle it. So we're gonna do that starting going forward.
Thank you.
We also tonight, and we're going to do this annually, is reassigned trustee liaisons. I published a list and we changed a couple things around based on some last minute information, but the current trustee liaison assignments are attached in the packet, and it has Trustee Masek with the police, Trustee Peterson with parks, Trustee Berman with finance, Trustee Bluthart with economic development, Trustee Dominiac with communications, and Trustee Pierce with public works. So that will be, and there are additional areas of responsibility that go in addition to those, but that is published and will be published on the website. Other acknowledgements, there are many different national to local acknowledgements this month. So it's Police Week, May 15th through May 21st. It's a National Public Works Week, May 15th through May 21st. So thank those guys over there. Municipal Clerks Week is May 17th. So Lori here, thank her. Mental Health Awareness Month, National Nurses Week, Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, International Nurses Day, Motorcycle Awareness Month, and lastly, Fulan Dafa Day. So that are all the acknowledgements for the month of May. And again, at this point, we have a full house. I assume I looked at the public comment list. We're going to have time for citizens to address the board. I would ask that everybody try and limit their comments to 3 minutes or less. I'd also ask that everybody keep a respectful tone and not get any argument or discourse with other members of the audience or the trustees. So with that being said, I will need the list so I can call the people up that are listed to speak. All right, skip John Doe. Okay, first is Rebecca Zeller. Come up here, and just so everybody understands, because this is broadcast on Zoom, you have to come up here and speak clearly into the microphone so that the people who are watching at home can hear. And same thing with the trustees. We had a citizen ask us to speak more clearly into the microphones this meeting. So, floor is yours, Rebecca.
Thank you, and thank you for seeing me and having me. Again, my name is Rebecca Zeller, and I've lived in Antioch since 2014. I wanted to speak tonight in support for the residents here in Antioch and the neighbors in our surrounding communities who believe that our village should be inclusive, welcoming, and supportive to everyone. I also believe that, and I look to our leaders to continue to help upholding these actions. That being said, I'd like to read a resolution that I know you're familiar with that was approved by the village board on March 20th, 2017. It is a resolution to support the welcoming and inclusive community pledge. Whereas the village of Antioch supports and serves all residents of the village regardless of their background, and whereas we support the welcoming and inclusive community pledge and commit to calling out hate and discrimination when we see it. And whereas we commit to helping promote our core American value that no one should be targeted because of their racial, ethnic, immigration, or refugee status, religion, sexual orientation, or other social identities. And whereas, as public servants, we have an even greater responsibility to speak out against discrimination, xenophobia, and hatred, because when the unacceptable becomes the norm in our society, human rights for all are threatened. And whereas the welcoming and inclusive community pledge inspires a positive perception of all people and engages individuals to help build a greater capacity for understanding others. Now, therefore be it hereby resolved by the Mayor and Village Board of Trustees that the village publicly endorses the welcoming and inclusive community pledge and agrees to support and serve all of its citizens and families regardless of their background, and further encourages all residents of the village of Antioch to sign the welcoming and inclusive community pledge. And that was given 6 ayes by the board on March 20th of 2017. And thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. The next individual that's signed up is Crystal Penn. Crystal, come up here to the microphone, please.
Hi.
Hello.
I cut it down as much as I could. If you feel the need to cut me off, then I have see the arrow.
Yeah, Kelly, sure.
But if you feel like just letting me keep going, up to you. All right, 168 days ago, I sent Mayor Gardner an email requesting his help in stopping the undoing of our schools and eventually this town. 168 days ago, I received the response, "Let me wrap my head around this and get back to you." I never heard from him again. The time to answer is long overdue. We come here tonight to ask for the resignation of Village Trustee Katrina Berman. In the absence of such resignation, we demand you take action to hold her accountable for each and every breach of the Code of Conduct as outlined in Resolution number 20-16. Removal from office is warranted, as you will all see as I enumerate these violations here tonight for the record. Point A, acting in the public interest. Trustee Berman has had a personal interest in disrupting our public schools and created the committee position of school board liaison to further that personal goal. She then formed a parent group, Parents of Antioch Community Committee, the social page of which she moderated for months while in her role as trustee. She also created a disinformation website, Parents for America, which is laden with conspiracy theory, and another social media group, Stop CRT in Illinois, which at least 7 similarly named offshoots, all of which she currently administers and has weaponized against our schools, all remaining trustee of this town and school board liaison. Point C, conduct of public officials states, public officials shall refrain from abusive conduct, personal charges, or verbal attacks, direct or inferred attacks or implied attacks upon the character or motives of other public officials, village staff, or the public. Trustee Berman has repeatedly publicly made disparaging comments about the school board president, other school board members, and both superintendents of District 34 and District 117. She also posted a list of members of the district.
1 second, you'll get your 3 minutes. I have the timer, so just give me 1 second. The one thing I think I want to be clear about, and I did just confer with the mayor briefly, this is public comment. We obviously all believe in the First Amendment. People can make their political statements, and everyone up here is a public figure. And I'm not casting any disparaging light. I'm not saying anything like that, but the mayor made it very clear we're not going to make personal attacks at any of this. So again, I don't have a verbatim transcript of what you're saying. I just want to make sure that we're very clear that we are not going to make personal attacks. And you have an absolute right under the First Amendment, in cases that I've litigated, that you have a right to make public comments and to critique and criticize government or public officials. I just want to make sure that whatever is said tonight, for anyone coming up here, we are not going to border on personal attacks on people. That's
Okay.
it. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
For point of clarification, all of my items are tied to numbers that are being broken.
And any policy statement or criticism of me or any truly public figure up here is valid within the First Amendment. What's not valid and what we will not have for decorum is personal ad hominem attacks. Is that everyone's understanding?
Yeah,
Sure.
I think I'm right. Now I don't know where I was.
I'm sorry, and I'll start the
We're
clock
not,
back.
it's fine.
Trustee Berman has repeatedly publicly made disparaging comments about the school board president, other school board members, and both superintendents of D34 and 117. She also posted a list of members of the district equity leadership team, opening them up for attack. The above parties were called groomers, faith haters, and liars, among other things. In an implied character attack, Trustee Berman espoused a theory that District 34 was in on the pandemic and rolled out their one-to-one iPad initiative just in time. In a separate implied attack, she created a false narrative around receiving anonymously sent packages about which she filed a police report. She has spent 9 months insinuating some connection of these packages to District 34 school board members at the time, even though she has known the identity of the sender since August 19th, 21. It took one FOIA of the police report and one phone call for me to find out the name of the sender. It took 5 quick phone calls for me to find out that none of us had ever met the sender. But too late, the narrative's already out there. Point H, advocacy. Officials shall support and defend the ordinances of the village. Trustee Berman does not uphold the diversity and inclusion resolution when she seeks to dismantle diversity work in our schools. She additionally wasn't upholding village ordinances when the parent group that she founded distributed flyers on school grounds. Point J, positive work environment. Trustee Berman's role
That's
as
3
school
minutes.
board,
That's, yeah, and
right,
I went over a little bit because I interjected. And again, I want to make it very clear, we are here, Mr. Chair, correct me if I'm wrong, we are here, we are not going to be making any personal ad hominem.
Crystal, just for my, how long do you think
A little late, isn't it?
how long do you think it would take?
for me to finish?
Yeah.
I'm about halfway.
Okay, so then we'll go down the line. I see Kelly is on the list. Kelly, there's one person in between you and Crystal, so.
Well, I did the arrow, see?
This is the arrow.
Yeah, well, she'll get a chance to come up.
Your Honor,
Yes,
before the next speaker starts the timer, can we make sure that if they have written comments that they want to submit, that if they aren't able to complete them, they can submit them and then are shared with the board?
sure. Yeah, and if there's any comments that, again, that you have, like you said,
I
Lori-
announced at the end of my speech that I'm gonna send you that with documents and citations.
okay, thank you. All right, Kelly Beal, is that Bell? Okay, sorry. Kelly Bell,
Do I need to introduce myself as well?
yeah, please do
My
for the
name is
record.
Kelly Bell. I am a resident of Pike Villa, but I'm a stakeholder in District 117 and District 34 schools. Point J, positive work environment. Trustee Berman's role as school board liaison should be to build a bridge between the schools and the village. She has not done that, and her group's relentless attacks at school board meetings and on social media has driven out 2 of the finest superintendents this town has ever seen. It will take years to rebuild our reputation as a place that can attract exceptional educational leaders. Point P, respect and integrity. Part 5, public officials must be dedicated to the highest ideals of honor and integrity in all public and personal relationships so as to merit respect and confidence. Let it be known we're not buying the argument that as long as she says her disclaimer that her attacks are that solely of a parent, that somehow excuses her from upholding point P5. She broke part 7, maintained the political climate that is required to enable us to work in a collaborative way with all stakeholders by creating a disinformation website targeting District 117 and District 34. Using local schools of misconduct breaks part 9, support the village so as to provide for dynamic and unbiased information. Parts 13 and 17 act lawfully and objectively and be honest. Each have numerous infractions. Part 20, never allow ourselves to be placed under any obligation or perceived influence. Trustee Berman seems beholden to the PACC parent group she created, as well as the members of her online forum Stop CRT in Illinois. And to that end, she certainly hasn't abided by this. Part 21, avoid any activities, work or non-work that may harm the reputation of the village of Antioch. Thank you for your patience and attention. We will follow up shortly with documentation and citation via email. So you are aware, we do intend to pursue this matter until such time as it is resolved to our satisfaction and in the best interest of our community and our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next, thank you, Kelly. Next on the list is Gina Swain. Gina? Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Okay.
Hi, my name is Gina Swain. I have been a resident of Antioch for over 10 years. I have children in District 34 and District 117. And I'm just here to say today, thank you to those of you on the board who have attended board meetings for our local District 34 and District 117 in support of them, or have given your support online for them, the current board, the current administration, the current administrators that are leaving, unfortunately, and your support for the administrators that will be coming in shortly, the superintendents to be replaced. So again, I just was here to say thank you. We, the parents of District 34 and District 117, really do appreciate our community leadership coming out to support the other most important part of our community, which are our schools and our children. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, I have Katrina Berman on the list. Katrina.
I'd like to clarify that standing here off the dais, I am speaking as an Antioch resident and a mother. Mother is first priority, and it will always be first priority. I don't care who tells me otherwise. You don't have that right. Because I'm told over and over again that nobody wants to address me as a mother. I don't understand that, and that's disturbing to me. To help you understand what a mother is, I brought my son's birth photo. Here's his ultrasound. My son, right here. You do not have the right to tell me I cannot do my job as a mother. My son was born before I ever even thought about running for office. I have a right to be doing what I'm doing. I'd also like to correct some inaccuracies. Many of you know, some in this room, others that are not in this room, possibly on Zoom, I've been nothing but clear to everyone, online and offline, stating that what I have done as far as a parent, it's strictly done as a parent. Yet, I have individuals that have, even though they know that I've made a clear-cut line between the both, have insisted on bringing in my elected position. I want to know why that is. Why was I attacked in the first email from a school board member? Why was I accused of making things political? When I was simply doing my job as a parent, asking questions because I was concerned for my son. Is that okay? Is that okay to do? That's not the whole story. They can come up here and state what they want to state, but if they want to talk about inaccurate information, PAC is not my parent group. You want to be honest? It stops CRT in Illinois. So I would like those things addressed, and if those documents are going to be turned in, that information needs to be correct. My son, right here. I am his mother.
And he deserves to go to Antioch school.
Exactly.
Carmen, Mary New. Yeah. Just also, too little, too late here, but just again, when you're speaking, address the board, not the audience. So just.
Originally, I was going to read a letter from another member that could not be here, a resident, but I'm sure he'll email it to you guys. I would like to,
Sorry, say your name, even though I say it.
Carmen Marinho. I've been a resident for almost 19 years. And I want to clear what the previous person said. There was a lot of inaccuracy. First of all, Katrina never started PAC. Parents of Antioch Community was started by me. I was the founder from the beginning. She was a moderator on my page for very brief, and she had nothing to do with any of the mailings. So if they're gonna accuse someone of something, at least get the information right. There was also a lot of other information that they stated that was inaccurate. And including the fact that the brief times that Katrina Berman spoke at any of the school boards, first statement she made, she made it very clear she was there as a parent, had nothing to do with this village or the board or her position. So they made a lot of accusations that were false. Thank you.
Next person to address the board is Jose Gonzalez. Jose.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for your time. My name is Jose Gonzalez.
You got it. Let's say, make sure you say it. Okay,
Thank you. Been a resident of Antioch for about 6 years, Lake Villa for another 15. But I'm here because I have a student that attends Emmons School, and unfortunately, this student is being bullied every single day. When I keep my counseling private, just because I feel like I have to, but they are being bullied by fellow classmates and classmates from other grades. This includes 2 instances where my student has been physically hit and nothing has happened about it. They have been called names, getting made fun of for what they wear, making inappropriate jokes about them. The school is aware of the situation, includes the superintendent, and we believe that the way in which the school is handling the situation is not working. My child is still being bullied despite the actions the school claims to be taking. My child is being affected both mentally and academically. And we hope that you guys can help us take action to resolve this problem. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for addressing the board. Thank you. All right, next person to address the board is Susan McCuston. I think, hi Susan. All right, close, I know.
For the record, my name is Susan McCuston. I've been a resident of Antioch since 2000. For the last 20 years, I've worked in the field of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Over this time, I've developed my own approach called compassionate diversity. I look at things holistically because we are all connected. And there is not one of us, victims, perpetrators, nor observers, who escape or are unaffected by events that happen to and around us. The definition of compassion is to take action to ease the suffering of another. Clearly, there's a lot of suffering in our community, and hurt people hurt people. I believe Antioch is filled with reasonable people who just want to live their lives peacefully in a safe, loving, and nurturing community. I have faith that everyone participating tonight, including those of you on the board, are doing so because we love this community and we want what's best for it. We do not want to see our neighbors in pain, regardless of their beliefs, because they have been attacked and othered on social media. We want our communities, our schools, and our businesses to thrive. This does not mean that we push bad stuff under the rug when it happens, because it has and it will happen. We must address our issues as they arise and resolve our differences through conversation with one another. If we actually took the time to have conversations with each other, I think we might find out that we have a lot more in common than we think we do. I hope that we can agree that we all love our families, that we all want to be respected, and that we all want what's best for Antioch. And it's important to understand that our individual diversity, because we are all diverse. And our individual diversity is that we're going to express these things in different ways. And the way that we express ourselves can either shut down conversation and create more polarization, or it can be an invitation to further connection and discovery. We can't change what's been done, but we can decide to take accountability for the harm that has been caused, make amends to those harmed, and move forward. My real dream is for Antioch to be a model for healing and reconciliation, where we can discuss our differences face to face in a respectful and supportive manner. That's the community that I want to build. I would hope that you and everyone here as well does, and I offer myself as a resource to anybody who would like to.
Thank you. Thank you. Next is Sue and Sue Dickinson. Dixon, okay.
Hi, my name is Sue Kildegard-Nixon. I'm an Antioch kid. Came through Oakland, Augs. I think I know a few of you from grade school days, or my sisters. My child will go to Lakes. When I left here to go support the military, I always felt proud to be an Antioch kid, always. And when it came time to find a home to raise my son and find a school district that I would be proud to have to go through, first stop, Antioch School District. Proud to bring him back here. But I have to tell you, after becoming a volunteer for Oakland and watching what happens at our school board meetings, I can no longer say I'm proud to be from Antioch. I'm embarrassed, I'm mortified, and I won't address the nonsense that goes on with the conspiracy nonsense and the anti-gay and the anti-trans and the book burning nonsense that is driven out really talented teachers, school board members, the head of our school district. I won't address that here, but I will tell you, I'm a mom. You absolutely have a right to protect your child, and I applaud you for doing that. What you don't have a right to do is attack my child or me as a parent and take away my choices. That's uncalled for.
Excuse, sir, ma'am, respectfully, you have to address the board in public comment. And
She asked us to address her as a parent, and that's what I'm doing.
Your
You don't
public
want us to
comment,
address us.
where public comment needs to be respectfully.
Understood.
You have to address the board. We're asking everyone to refrain from personal ad hominem
Got it.
attacks.
Got it.
Thank you.
When someone shows you who they are, I will speak to you as an Antioch taxpayer, as a mom of a child in the school district, who always spoke glowingly about the schools. I talked up the school district in our neighborhoods because of the schools. I can't do that anymore. I can't in good conscience tell people to come here when we are in a community that allows that kind of hate and misinformation. So I would ask you as a board, pay attention. Look at what's happening. Do something. If not now, when? Are we going to lose more superintendents, more teachers? Our kids are suffering because of this. Do something.
Thank you. Next person on the list is Lisa Fisher. No, okay. Someone put your name down. Anybody else for public comments? All right, well, I thank you all for coming tonight to participate in our meeting. I think especially myself, the board, staff appreciates hearing from the residents in person and not through social media. And I think it's time for the community hopefully to start healing and moving forward from this point forward. And let's again agree. Let's keep the politics of elections in this room. So I appreciate you coming. And at this point,
Scott.
Oh, we do have one hand up. All right, one more. How many hands do we have up?
Just one.
Okay, and then I'll give you guys a brief minute or two if you don't want to sit through the rest of the meeting. I don't blame you, so you can go at that time.
His name is Ted Baramus.
All right, sir, I'm assuming you can hear us. Can you say something so we can make sure you're online?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, can you see me or just hear me?
Just here.
We can just hear you right now.
Gotcha. Okay, sorry, I just joined the meeting. So
You just joined, a couple parameters, we're trying to limit to about 3 minutes, no personal attacks. And that was kind of the parameters that we set for the
Gotcha.
public comment. All right, thank you.
yeah, and if you deem this question unsuitable for this forum, you don't need to answer it. But my question was to one of the board members, Patrina. The question is, and it relates to her stance on CRT.
So, sir, so yeah, there's you can address the board, but we don't have any public discourse during the public comment. It's just basically for you to make your comments and for the board to consider your position. And then anything else that needs to be discussed can be discussed offline, either by call to me or to the village or via email. And again, I do apologize if I get a lot of emails and responses if I didn't respond to everything, but I definitely will try as always. So can you just, I'll let you go again. I don't want any questions asked that are looking for an answer from an individual.
Okay, I guess the question is to the board then, and I guess same question, and it relates to CRT in classrooms. Is I'm just trying to understand the reasoning behind why we don't want CRT taught in classrooms. That's the question. I don't know if you guys have to answer it, but that's my question.
One other thing, and the mayor gave a nice articulate answer about it's not public discourse, it's public comment. We can always talk about policy issues, but I just want to be very clear. This is the village. Our charter and our duties are to maintain police and public works, etc. Curriculum is an academic matter. Those issues are generally taken up and determined by the state and the local school districts. You can always talk about policy at any public meeting, but that is not under this body's domain or jurisdiction.
Okay, so it sounds like probably the incorrect forum to ask the question then, so disregard it.
Well, thank you, and thank you for participating.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, you can, anybody that's here, you can make a public comment. So just Dan, come up and state your name for the record and make your comment.
Just real quick, my name's Dan Amstel. I grew up here too as well. I've been in town since I was 3 years old. My only comment on what I've seen, my kids have gone through the school, they all went through here, I went through here, my 4 siblings went through here. And I do know one thing, there's a lot of people in this town and all over the place that have a lot of questions about CRT and exactly what it is, and this and that. And it hasn't been brought out perfectly clear as to how it was going to be from the beginning. So from the beginning, there's been an issue with it. And I just want to let the board know that there's a ton of people that have a ton of questions about what's going on and how it's going to be. That's it.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else before I move on in the meeting, which will be the consent agenda? So,
Quick. Sorry. Chris Lulo, I'm actually the first resident of my kids who go to Antioch schools. I just want to say thank you to everybody for coming and voicing your opinions and showcasing the hypocrisy.
Chris, could just address the board, not the crowd. Thank you.
Sorry. Want to thank the board for listening to everybody's comments, showcasing the hypocrisy and hate that can arise when people ask questions. I appreciate the board and the members of the school boards, et cetera, in our community being willing to engage in open dialogue. That's all I've ever asked for as a concerned parent, concerned resident. So I do appreciate everybody's comments. I appreciate the board's feedback, the board's responses. Like everybody said, personal attacks are never okay. So thank you for voicing your opinions. And unfortunately, I feel like this was more grandstanding than anything. And I don't think that's fair to the board or anybody else. So thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I missed his name.
Chris DeLulo.
My name is Michelle Rominski. I've been a resident in Antioch since 2004. My child has gone to Antioch schools from kindergarten through 12th grade and is now in college. He received an excellent education here. I had no intention of speaking tonight. However, I will say that it has gotten, unfortunately, very political in many ways. There are people on both sides of the issue that feel very strongly. What I would ask you as a board and all of us as parents to do is to take a step back and try to understand where each is coming from. To the gentleman who asked about CRT and why it wasn't discussed in the schools, I will say this: CRT is not taught in elementary schools. It is not taught in high schools. It is taught in law school as a certain theory. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are very important to our community. I came to Antioch, my husband and I came to Antioch because we were told it was a welcoming community with good schools. That is the reason why we built our home here. That is the reason why we stay here. I think that there are very good people in Antioch, but we all need to take a step back and look at what is fact and what is fiction. CRT is not taught in our schools. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, both in the school district and as a village, is very important. If we lose sight of that, I believe we lose sight of who we are as people. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. All right, next item.
I just want to make one point clear relative to the rules on public comment. The idea of ad hominem attacks, they actually disturb or impede a meeting. That's why the statements are made to the board, and you can criticize public policy, public officials, or anything like that. I just want to make very clear why those rules are in place and they are established by the state of Illinois. Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
That's all right, thank you. So we're gonna move next to the consent agenda.
My name is Jennifer Hartman. I grew up here. My husband grew up here. My children both attend District 34. My son will be in District 117. And just.
That's an old one. We had too many of these, kind of like the Grammys or something.
I truly believe that, as some have stated, there has been a lot of mix-up and misunderstandings via social media. And I can tell you from my personal experience with my children, we are so proud to be friends and family meaning friends, family, together with anybody and everybody who is a good person. And I really am now starting to forget what I was trying to say, so nervous. I just think that this has gotten out of control. It has gotten so out of control. And I, as a resident, I love living in Antioch. I love this board. I do listen. I do watch. I do observe. I take very heavy hiatuses because I really don't like putting myself out there at all. But I do not believe, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say, I don't believe that Trustee Berman, Katrina, as a mother, has any ill will. And I have a whole group of people, probably half this town, and then the other half, you know, we're on different sides. And as a board, I guess I would want in the future to see the board be a little more involved in trying to
bring us more together. And as it was stated before, you know, us having maybe, I don't know what they would be called, things where residents could speak to each other instead of, excuse my language, bitching at each other over the internet. So that's all I really have to say, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, in closing, I will say, I appreciate everybody that came out here today to voice their opinion. I appreciate hearing all sides in the respectful tone. I really appreciate doing here in person and humanizing people and their feelings and their emotions, other than just what we see on social media and the internet, as was said. So again, I welcome you to always come here and voice your opinions and concerns. And I know I listen to each and every one of you, and I know the board members here do as well. So with that being said, please, again, feel free to reach out to me, trustees, staff at any time with your concerns, and always please feel free to come here and address these issues as opposed to online. So again, thank you. And with that, we will move to the consent agenda, and you can escape if you want to. I do not take offense to that. So, all right. So the first item I have the consent agenda. Are there any requests for removal of any of the items from the consent agenda? All right. If not, I'd entertain a motion in a second. So moved. Motion, trustee Bluthart, second, trustee Peterson. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominic.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Dominic, was that, trustee Dominic said yes?
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. On to the regular business. First item, item number 4 is consideration and approval of payments of accounts payable as prepared by staff. The amount of $331,999.58. And entertain a motion in a second.
So moved.
All right, motion, trustee Dominiac, second, trustee Bluthart. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominic.
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is consideration and approval of emergency ordinance ratifying the mayoral declaration of emergency relating to coronavirus, ordinance number 22-05-27. For clarification for the board, the reason this keeps coming back is to allow Zoom attendance for these meetings. So with that being said, I entertain a motion in a second.
So moved. Waiving the second reading.
Motion, trustee Peterson, waiving the second reading.
Second.
Second, trustee Dominiac. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominic.
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is consideration and approval of a resolution for maintenance under the Illinois Highway Code authorizing the expenditure of motor fuel tax funds in the amount of $700,000 for the 2022 road program, resolution number 22-35. I entertain a motion in a second.
So moved.
Motion, trustee Peterson.
Second.
Second, trustee Bluthart. Any discussion? Otherwise, roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason, Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominic.
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next item on the agenda, consideration and approval of a resolution authorizing the village administrator to execute a professional services agreement with HR Green for the 2022 road program, resolution number 22-36. Entertain a motion in a second.
So moved.
Motion, trustee Dominiac.
Second.
Second, trustee Pierce. Any discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominic.
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. So next item is acceptance of the annual treasurer's sworn statement of the Antioch Police Pension Fund for the fiscal year ending April 30th, 2022. I'd entertain a motion to accept as presented in a second.
So moved.
Motion trustee Peterson,
Second.
second trustee Berman. Any discussion? Not roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Semenia,
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. That brings us to the end of the agenda items on the regular meeting. Next item, we have the administrator's report. Mr. Kime, do you have any report? Okay, thank you. Village clerk, do you have any report? Any trustee reports other than those that were submitted in writing?
I do have one comment to make, Your Honor, if I may.
Yes, of course.
I just wanted to share with the rest of the board as a follow-up to our strategic planning meeting where we talked about the opportunities to start working on our low-hanging fruit, short-term objectives for the downtown. I'm working with staff, specifically Michael Garrigan, Director Garrigan. I'm putting together a game plan to be brought to the board at the next meeting that would outline some thoughts on how to make that happen. So I just wanted to make sure that people knew that we were continuing to look at that as a follow-up to that meeting.
All right, thank you. Any other trustees? All right. If not, I ask for a motion to adjourn the regular meeting.
So moved.
Motion trustee Peterson, second trustee Bluthart. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Semenia,
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. I will take a 5-minute recess. We'll start the committee of the whole meeting. There's one item for discussion, and I know 2 items for discussion. I know Steven's online, so we'll be back at, let's say 7:20. It's 7:16 right now.
You guys heard me say
All right, I'm going to call the meeting, the committee of the whole, to order at 7:25 p.m. Roll call, please.
Trustee Pierce,
Present.
Trustee Mason.
Here.
Trustee Peterson. Here. Trustee Luther,
Here.
Trustee Berman,
Here.
Trustee Dominion,
Here.
Mayor Gardner.
Present. First item on the agenda is approval of the April 27th, 2022 committee of the whole meeting minutes as presented. I entertain a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Motion trustee Bluthart, second trustee Peterson. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Semenia,
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. There is no mayoral report other than what was addressed earlier. And then I'm assuming citizens to address the board is, you've heard all of that so far.
Okay.
Well, Attorney Vasselli would like to address just one item regarding the open meeting act.
I just, again, I've said this, I think, 3 or 4 times tonight, so I just want to make it very clear. The limitation on comments for public comment is merely to ensure that there are no disruptions to the meeting. And the portion of the meeting that is specifically known as public comment. Wide latitude was and will continue to be given by this village board and I advise that wide latitude is given to the public to make comments. Disruptive comments were not tolerated, will not be tolerated, and should not be tolerated pursuant to the Open Meetings Act. But this board gives and has given a great deal of latitude to critique policy and even public officials. Even insensitive comments would be permitted by this board under the Open Meetings Act. Rather than referring to a bar on a personal attack or an ad hominem attack, we are curtailing and looking to curtail any disruptions to the ongoing meeting of this board. Again, controls are instituted to stop disruptions of the meeting, but allow for the critique of policy and public officials, even allowing the person to be called out by name or referring to a public official and their policy decisions by name. We even allow for rude comments or slanderous comments. But again, disruptions are not tolerated. The public business needs to go on, and that is essentially the law on the matter as determined by the Public Access Counselor under the Open Meetings Act. If anyone has and it's kind of a fluid issue, like where does this disruption start and stop? And those are things that the law evolves and goes on from there. But I think the chair has made very clear that he is going to promote vigorous debate on issues and hope that we come to a consensus and move the village forward. If anyone has any questions, please call me. I guess you could ask him now, Mr. Chair, if that's okay. If not, I think I've spoken to all of you on the phone or via email at some point in time. Feel free to reach out to me if there's any questions.
Thank you. Now to the regular business. We have discussion regarding municipal bonds and the upcoming processes. We have some individuals on Zoom. We have from RW Baird, Stephen Roberts, and Adam Holstein. And then we have from Miller Canfield, Daryl Davidson and Glenn Weinstein. And then we also have Administrator Keim to give the presentation. Thank you.
Just a few opening comments. Thank you, Your Honor. As has been discussed previously at the board, the potential for the village to utilize bond funding, specifically revenue bond, alternate source revenue bond funding, to fund the various projects in our capital plan. And it was discussed on our Friday strategic meeting. It seemed like there was interest to pursue this revenue source. And I thought it'd be a good idea to have our financial advisor, Stephen Roberts, bond counsel, Daryl Davidson from Miller Canfield, and Glenn Weinstein, to give you an overview of what you can expect to happen during a bond issuance. Some of you may not have been through this. So really tonight's objective was really to get you more familiar with what's involved with bond issuance, and to give you kind of a schedule and give you kind of a forecast of things to come if the village decides to go down this path. Okay, so I'd like to hand it over either to Daryl or Stefan to speak to this potential bond issuance.
Thank you. Who would like to go first?
Daryl, I can, if you'd like. So, thank you very much for having me here. I've worked with the village for over a decade on their municipal bond issues, and I have to say this is just to kind of get this conversation going. This is a very unique market that we're in. As you've been reading in the press, we've seen general increases in interest rates, taxable and tax exempt. Where we've seen low rates for the past decade, we're not seeing that anymore. With these increasing interest rates, though, they still are low on historic averages when you start to look at that. And so if you need to borrow money and fund projects, I would say, you know, now might be the time with increasing rates, because the expectation is that rates will go up further. And we might not see these historic averages as low as they have been. They'll get closer to the average. So I started conversations with Jim and Joy at the time on funding these, and I was given your capital plan from between fiscal years 23 and 27. And I have two scenarios, and Jim, I'm not sure if they have those scenarios. But what we were asked to do is basically do two. One scenario is funding $21,550,000 and seeing what that would look like on a coverage basis. And when I say coverage, that's the anticipated revenues from the business district. And then you take debt service, principal and interest that you're going to pay on the bonds. And when you divide that, it comes to a coverage figure. And for alternate revenue bonds that Jim mentioned, you need 1.25 times. So in other words, revenues have to be 1.25 times above debt service. And if we were to fund to the number, that $21 million figure from your draft capital plan, this is under tab 1, slide 4. You can see you have healthy coverage at 1.37 times. And I can get as specific into these numbers if you would like. The second scenario was basically doing a capacity analysis of what total amount the village could do if it was to fill up to its 1.25 legal test on alternate revenue bonds. And that is on slide 5. And basically the deposit to the project fund would be probably around 23.6 million. So with that kind of just, and I will say that with market increases that have happened even in the past few days, that might be a little bit high, where the project of the deposit into the account will go down as interest rates go up. So that's kind of what we did. I also under tab 2, and this is where I can leap in, Miller Canfield Bond Council included a timetable. And what that basically is the steps in a bond transaction that we have to go through. The first steps are legal that I can pass to Miller Canfield to talk about. And then there's others that we need to fix, like rating process and getting into the market. I would recommend with what we've seen in the market, if you need the funds, would be sooner rather than later. So Daryl, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, or you want to go through some of the legal processes.
Yeah, I think that
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Just for clarification, I was confused too. The tabs that you're referencing are not in this board packet. I believe Maurice indicated that it was an email that was sent by Zeta to.
I send it to you.
Yeah, by email, yes. It's not in the packet, but we'll make sure that since it's referenced, that it gets added to the packet for the public. And so if there's, there is not, I saw some of the trustees looking at their iPads, so that's why I just want to clarify that. But I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead with your presentation.
Sure. So under Illinois law, the village is a non-home rule unit. The type of bonds being discussed are what are called alternate bonds. They do rely on these revenues that are being generated from the business districts and potentially a TIF. There is a somewhat lengthy process of gaining public approval for the bond issue. There will be an authorizing ordinance, a publication. There are petition rights for 30 days. There are formulas of numbers of potential voters. The village has done bond issues of this sort before, and they are very well accepted in the market. So the question will be, moving forward, looking to the types of projects that are looked for, analyzing them under tax exemption rules. That it is contemplated this will be a tax exempt bond issue. We will be looking at that and working with the village and its staff on those issues. And then moving forward after the petition period into a parameters bond ordinance and a sale of bonds. This is will be all set out on a timetable. And what I do and my colleagues do at Miller Canfield is both the tax analysis, document production, and the issuance of opinions about the legality and validity of the village's bonds, which make them marketable throughout the country and throughout the bond buying public. And we work to have a very smooth process for the village to gain market acceptance. There are other rules, of course, Securities and Exchange Commission rules about municipal bonds. There will be public offering documents that the village will need to stand behind. And so we work closely with the Baird folks and with the village, creating the bond transcript, all the documents and all the proceedings that legalize the borrowing and assure investors of the transaction and its bona fides, so to speak.
Thank you. I'll ask the board if they have any questions or comments. So if you're on Zoom, if you raise your hand, I'll see you. Or if you're here, if you have any questions or comments, anybody want to speak? All right, Jim.
So with that, you know, if it is the village's intent to move forward here, we will assemble the bond team. There will be more people involved than just people you see on Zoom tonight. There is bond counsel, issuers counsel, disclosure counsel. All of these folks will need to be part of this process to review these documents, as Daryl said, to make sure that they're valid, legal, sellable. But I guess it's time for the village to say, you know, are we going to go forward with this or not? It is quite a process. All of the folks involved in bond issuance here will be paid out of the bond sale. So we should take an affirmative action to say we're gonna move forward with this. So people aren't wasting their time and we decide, well, we're really not serious about selling bond. That would be not a good thing for us to do. So at this point, I'd be looking for the board to give staff and its advisors and legal teams its opinion whether we should move this forward. We did actually start this. I think we should restart. I think it was prior to maybe in December of 19, we did pass an ordinance that allowed us to recapture funds that were being spent, prior to the sale of a bond. I think we would probably begin there again because it's been so long. I think we would just start fresh with that initial ordinance, and then I'll make sure you get another copy if you haven't seen the slides in the packet. I apologize for that not being in the packet, but I need the board to say, go or no go on this.
So unless there's any objection from any of the board members, which I don't appear to hear any, then I guess it would be the prerogative to move forward on the process. So any objections? If none, move forward. Thank you. Thank you on Zoom for being there and getting to witness our public comment tonight. Thank you. All right, next item on the committee of the whole meeting is discussion regarding a text amendment to section 10-10-10 of the village form-based code to add a chapter for design review of exterior modifications for buildings within the village core. Michael Garrigan, there is information in the packets. Hopefully you'll be able to read it. So I'll just give an overview of the board. Have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. This matter comes before you for an amendment to the village's form-based code, which surely covers the village's downtown, county, the village core, but the Main Street transitional area around Route 59. This matter has also gone before the historic preservation with the chairperson, Ainsley Wonderling, and also the planning commission. What's being proposed this evening is an amendment. As you know, the village has been very successful with our facade program. But there are some buildings that have had some modifications over the years, which were not reviewed by the village board or the planning commission, or now the newly adopted historic preservation commission. So based on the discussion, currently right now, theoretically, after the form-based code, there is a requirement in the building in downtown makes more than 50% of the changes to the exterior was supposed to be reviewed by the board. There was some concern that was not specific enough. So based on that, staff has been working with the Preservation Commission and the Planning Commission on making some amendments. So we're proposing, we have a set of design standards, which I can walk you through, or maybe if you have any questions, I can answer those, which will provide some general guidelines or standards for any significant changes to existing buildings along Main Street, also any historic buildings along Lake Street. So it just provides, again, the ultimate decision maker will be the village board. So if somebody wanted to come in and let's say remove all the brick or maybe terracotta from a building or change the storefront significantly, the village board would have an opportunity to review that before the owner of that building makes the changes. Again, what we're not trying to do is trying to create additional steps or trying to delay the process. We just want to make sure that any future modifications or major changes to our historic fabric, that it's reviewed by the board and the board is comfortable. The worst thing that could happen, unfortunately, if somebody makes really poor choices, use of really bad materials, in many cases, village boards ask, how did that happen? So we're trying to create a process to provide the village board with an opportunity to review major significant building changes. Design standards, much of it's really incorporated from the Granicke report. We actually had Granicke Consultants, which is one of the best preservation firms in actually the Midwest, do a lot of groundwork back in 2006 when IDOT made about 83 changes when they widened that road. There was a grant to hire a Granicke to do a complete survey of our downtown, which was a huge, really became a really huge benefit for the Preservation Commission, because a lot of the groundwork has already been done. So a lot of the good work that Granicke did has been incorporated into these design standards. So They all come from the Secretary of Interior standards, which I think I've discussed before, making sure that major changes to buildings are sensitive to, again, the character of our downtown. So with that, I'll conclude my staff report. Be more than happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay. I don't know if you can put Trustee Dominiak and Trustee Pierce back up there, so let's see if they have questions.
I see you guys.
Yeah, we're just gonna take the presentation down so I can see yourself and Trustee Dominiak.
Okay.
All right, there we go. Now I see you. All right. Any questions or concerns from the board members for Mr. Garrett? Anyone? Trustee Pierce?
I do like how we're moving forward with this, and I think it's important that we preserve the historic character of our downtown area. I think we have a jewel. I do have a concern that I think I read in this item that a preservation list of buildings has not been completed yet, that it's being in process with the Historic Preservation Committee.
Yes, that's we're around 85%, and the only buildings that have not been surveyed are in residential districts. So really what we're talking about here are really the commercial buildings along Main Street, and some of the, transitional, what we call Main Street transitional, some of the houses that have been converted into businesses on Main Street. All those properties, for the most part, have been surveyed by Granicki, by the Historic Preservation Commission. We're probably 80% done with the residential surveys in the downtown, like on Spafford, Harding Street, Windsor, some of the other side streets. So we're getting very close to being completed. But with respect to all the buildings on Main Street, commercial buildings, which is what we're really focused on, those surveys have been completed.
Have they included buildings like the Fiscal, the church, the Methodist church there, and the school building across the street? Are those included in this preservation?
The school buildings have been included. The churches have been exempted. There's some case law out there that you have to be very careful with landmarking churches for obviously First Amendment rights, and there's case law out there. So the churches have not been technically surveyed. So we can complete the churches. Obviously, they would be maybe potential landmarks if the parishes or congregations supported that. That might be, but obviously there are some challenges with that with regard to churches. So did I answer your question? So everything
that answered my question. You said the school has already been included. I'm talking specifically about the old schoolhouse that's a museum right now.
Yes, that was included.
Once we have our list of historic preservation items, are we going to go after landmarking some of them? I think at some point we got to hit the point where they're landmarkable and kept in the village as what they are, so that somebody doesn't make a decision and come in and tear everything down and just put up whatever they want to put up.
No, it's a good point. We actually have, the Preservation Commission did review and approve a application for landmarks. We're actually discussing some potential candidates. Again, for the record, has to be owner's consent. So somebody who landmarks property has to be owner's consent, so we don't get that contention or a neighbor is designated somebody else's house or building. So that's a good start, but we are seriously discussing some different candidates for landmarking. So I do anticipate that probably this year we'll see a landmark, one or two at least, from our Preservation Commission. And that will only be a recommendation. That final decision will have to be made by the village board.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on this? Trustee Dominiak?
My assumption is based on the discussion tonight that, Michael, you're going to bring forward at the next meeting something for us to vote on. Is that correct?
Correct. Will be an ordinance to adopt this form-based code change incorporation of our proposed historical downtown design standards.
So, thank you. So what I would like to just share with the board, having sat in on the discussions with planning and zoning, is the recommendation that we change the language that has the 50% to include the language that was unanimously approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. There was a lot of discussion about the 50% and what did that mean? And is it just the facade, or is it the back of the building, the side of the building? And so through their very in-depth deliberation and discussion, they made the recommendations of the proposed list of changes to an exterior that would trigger this review. And you can see those 5 points. So I would recommend that when we draft that ordinance, that we incorporate those 5 points instead of the 50%.
Thank you. And it's for reference, I think it's the bottom of page 59 of the packet.
I'm sorry, what?
I do it just for reference. Those are listed at the bottom of page 59 of the board packet.
Yes, correct.
Any other discussion? All right, if there's no other discussion, we will move this to the next village board meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other business that anyone wishes to discuss on the board? If not, there's been no request for executive session, so I entertain a motion to adjourn. We'll move motion, trustee.
Second.
Second, trustee Peterson. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson. Yes. Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac.
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned 7:49.